Coming up, Tzu Chi volunteers enact a cash for work program to help flood survivors in Malaysia clean up their home. Welcome to DaAi Headlines. I'm Mary Lee. Thank you for joining us. We start the show in Malaysia, where floodwaters have finally begun to subside in hard-hit Kelantan. Apart from visiting each family in Kota Baru to extend their blessings, Tzu Chi volunteers also initiated cash for work programs at 2 local Chinese elementary schools.
Now that the waters have subsided, all that remains is mud and dirt. Residents wade through the mud as they make their way home, and their once flustered hearts are finally at ease.
The waters flooded our first floor, so we moved upstairs. We left when the second floor was flooded as well. All our valuables are still stored upstairs.
Here in Kelantan, the rain is replaced by sunny blue skies. The blue and white clad Tzu Chi volunteers arrived to deliver emergency cash, relief supplies, and most of all, emotional support. The start of the new school year has been postponed by a week due to the floods, and with recovery a long way off, volunteers launched a Cash for Work program for residents to clean up their communities, while the volunteers themselves prepared hot meals for the participants as well as residents in neighbouring communities. Meanwhile, in Kampung Kelekor community, volunteers delivered 860 lunchboxes. Having gone days without water and electricity, this hot meal immediately warmed the hearts and stomachs of local residents.
Thank you for coming and caring for us.
Upon receiving the lunchbox, Deng Lianyu immediately shares it with her neighbour.
We will be able to eat it if it is halal. Vegetarian is really good.
Delivering their blessings and handing over the relief items, volunteers give these disaster survivors strength to weather the storm.
We are so glad you came. Tzu Chi volunteers' efforts in helping residents affected by the worst flooding in 30 years in Malaysia continues. In our next report, we join Tzu Chi volunteers as they deliver much-needed aid to flood victims in Terengganu and Pahang.
Waters reached waist height in some areas. Some homes are still inundated. This is the current situation in Temerloh, Pahang, following the heavy seasonal rainfall since mid-December of last year. With heavy rainfall causing the worst flooding in decades in Malaysia, most of Temerloh is submerged underwater. Seeing the devastation brought by the disaster, one group of people is extremely worried. Despite having to take multiple types of transportation to get to their destination, the determination of the Tzu Chi volunteers never falter. The volunteers say the purpose of their trip is to remind flood survivors that they are not forgotten by the society. Besides delivering much-needed aid to flood victims, Tzu Chi volunteers also make it a point to visit their fellow counterparts who are also affected by the disaster.
I am going to cry. I have been putting on a brave front since the disaster, but seeing Tzu Chi brothers and sisters really moved me. I think it is because they reminded me of Master Zhen Yan.
At a temporary shelter in Padang Tengku, Pahang, those of the Islamic faith gather together to pray for peace and harmony. As many parts of the city are still inundated, residents can only stay at temporary shelters. To help, Tzu Chi volunteers arrive with love and care. This time, 60 households affected by the flooding received Tzu Chi's assistance. Now, with consolation cash in hand, many residents have regained their smiles.
I was extremely happy and moved when I received Tzu Chi's consolation cash. This money will definitely help lift some of the burden off my shoulder. I will be able to replace some of the items damaged by the disaster.
Dalam banjir.
To make sure flood survivors in Terengganu are well taken care of, as soon as the relief items are loaded into the car, the volunteers begin their rescue mission. With many areas of Terengganu still inundated by floodwaters, city volunteers make sure to deliver relief items to each temporary shelter as quickly as possible. City's timely assistance has reminded flood survivors that they are not forgotten and that love is everywhere.